Welcome back. In this set of videos, I'm going to be talking through some ideas from Aldo Leopold in his very famous book, A Sand County Almanac. The passages that we've read from A Sand County Almanac are the most influential ones from Leopold on the field of environmental ethics. Leopold is still considered something of an authority in environmental ethics. You often find in other texts that we read for the course, people will refer back to Leopold, will quote from him, and consider him a kind of authority. But many of the ideas in a Sand County Almanac are not developed in much detail by Leopold. So he left a lot to be decided by others. And of course, there are also potentially reasons for disagreeing with him on various issues, which some of the authors that we read will do. Leopold was an American. He worked in forestry and wildlife management, and some say he actually invented the field of wildlife management. He developed the first management plan for the Grand Canyon, of course, a famous, beautiful part of North America in the Southwest. And later in his career, he became a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He became a professor of game management, again connected with wildlife management, this field that he helped to found. And as I mentioned before, he was a seminal contributor to environmentalist thought. One of the parts of Leopold's text that we've read is entitled Thinking Like a Mountain. And I asked you in the reading response to say what you think Leopold means by this. He tells a story about a wolf. He and his and some colleagues were out hiking on a mountain and camping, and they saw a wolf at the bottom of the hill, or the place where they were up higher on this hill or mountain. And they were very excited because Leopold says in those days, one would never pass up a chance to shoot a wolf. And so they got out their guns, and they were all hunters. They got out their guns and they shot the wolf. And Leopold says when he went down to retrieve the wolf, he saw a green fire dying in the wolf's eyes. And then he wondered whether it was the right thing, or whether it was such a good thing to have shot the wolf. This then leads Leopold to talk about some of the negative effects of killing as many wolves as possible, which is what people were doing at that time. These include reducing the number of predators that can reduce the numbers of deer. So the fewer wolves there are, the more likely it is that deer will increase in numbers to the point that they deface the side of the mountain by eating all of the foliage. So Leopold describes what the side of a mountain looks like that has been stripped of all of its foliage by a deer population large enough to do that. And that deer populations would get so large without predators like wolves that a lot of deer would die of starvation. And so that kind of raises the question of whether it's better to have the deer die by some kind of natural means, or die at the hand of a wolf, or die by starvation. And the main point of all this is to say that even though wolves are not liked by a lot of humans, they're not liked by cattle ranchers, for instance, because wolves will take down cattle, they are beneficial to mountain ecosystems. And so I think basically the right answer to this question, what does Leopold mean by thinking like a mountain, is thinking in terms of the entire ecosystem and what's good or bad for the entire ecosystem. Now, there may be, you could go a little deeper with it if you want and talk about the kind of longer term perspective of a mountain, that mountains have been around for a longer time than individual humans have. So if we think like a mountain, we may be thinking more in hundreds of thousands of year trajectories. Mountains certainly are geographically larger than an individual human or their scope of vision. And mountains have a lot of biotic diversity, a lot of different kinds of organisms that are related to each other in complicated ways. So thinking like a mountain is appreciating, in this case, appreciating the value that wolves have, and that it's very plausibly better not to kill a wolf than to kill one, to let wolves be on the mountain because they play an important ecological role.